thank you for the response on the last vlog. I did not think the episode would go that crazy. And the comment section really came to life, and I've been trying to respond to as many comments as possible, but it's got to the point where there's just not enough hours in the day, and I've run out of time to respond to all of the comments. But some good discussion in there, some very strong opinions as well, so keep that going. I thought, while the comment section was in fine form, it was time to rip the band-aid off and talk about the disc brake versus rim brake debate. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because I've got a few disc brake bikes sitting around here: road bike, gravel bike, cross-country bike. But then there's my Cervelo tri-bike, which is still running rim brakes. And I haven't got around to upgrading it, and I'm not really in a hurry to do so, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a big fan of disc brakes on road bikes. And now I know there's going to be people here that aren't fans, already commented on my last video, and you know, believe it or not, some of these new road bikes are better than an old 2005 steel frame rim brake bike. But for my riding, I live in a very hilly area and it rains a lot. It is mid-October. It's pretty much been raining since January. So more often than not, I'm doing rides in the wet and on hills and on pretty crappy roads. And so I really appreciate the extra stopping power that I get from disc brakes. I know rim brakes stop, I'm not saying they're crap, but if you add in a bit of rain, they're nowhere near as good as disc brakes, and that's a fact. The other reason I really love it, particularly on my road bike, which is the bike I probably ride the most, is the additional tyre clearance. So now on that road bike I run a 28mm wide tyre, front and rear, which on any of my old rim brake bikes I couldn't do. And so running a wider tyre at a lower pressure makes for a much more comfortable ride. And if you're not from New Zealand or not from Auckland, you may not know what the roads are like here, but I live rurally, so more often than not it's heavy chip seal and it's never in very good condition. So it's nice to have a bit of extra cushioning on the bike and under my butt to make rides more comfortable. And I guess the data is starting to show now that wider tyres do have less rolling resistance, so you do end up with a slightly faster combo than skinnier, like a old 23mm tyre pumped up to high pressure. So it's a win for me. The other thing that I like about disc brake wheels is that you're not wearing out a carbon fibre brake track or a carbon fibre rim every time you pull the brakes on. So this bike, yes, I realise still got rim brakes on it, but the carbon brake track on a rim can't be replaced, and so once it's gone basically. So doing a heap of riding on a set of carbon rims with rim brakes is going to wear them out quicker, and then they end up being replaced. And that's why back in the days of everyone riding rim brake bikes, you had a training wheel set which was usually had an aluminium brake track, and then a race wheel set which had a carbon brake track, and then you had to change them over, you had to change brake pads, and it was all just a lot of admin. Now on a disc brake bike you can pretty much run the same set of wheels all the time, and the only wear you're getting is on brake pads and disc rotors, which effectively are disposable parts that you can just chuck away and buy cheap replacements for. Now, one thing I really want to stress on disc brakes is that the change from rim brakes to disc brakes within the industry was something that was actually led by the consumers. Now, I know there'll be a lot of disagreement on this, and the comment section will tell me that the manufacturers made us do this or that the pros made us do this, but that's not the case. There was a point in time where all the bikes were rim brake, and then a couple of manufacturers started experimenting with disc brake road bikes, and consumers bought them and liked them, and then more consumers kept buying them, and they became really popular. And so there was a space in time where all the major brands were selling all their road bikes in either a disc brake or a rim brake option, and it got to the point where all the disc brake ones were selling and the rim brake options weren't. You had a few pros We've seen them all in the media going on about how they like the rim brakes better and they hate disc brakes and they're noisy and it's hard to change a tyre and this, that and the other. These guys don't have to change tyres. They've got people to do it for them. They get to ride on closed roads in a lot of cases. They don't have to worry about wearing out a brake track because they get wheels given to them. But for the everyday rider who's a commuter, who rides on public roads, who probably doesn't race 150 days a year, the disc brake bikes were more popular. And the UCI rules say that any equipment that a pro team uses in World Tour races has to be available for the public to purchase. And it got to the point where all these bike companies were going, we're still making these rim brake bikes for our pro teams to ride. We have to put them on the market because that's what the rule says, but no one's buying them. We're selling all these disc brake model bikes. So these companies were saying, well, we're not going to keep making these bikes en masse to put into shops to never sell so that we have to give 150 every season to a pro team. Simply a waste of money, waste of resource, waste of material, and in the end something that would just end up losing money as a business. So that's what forced the transition into disc brake bikes and the industry going to disc brake bikes. So back onto this bike and why I haven't swapped this out for a disc brake bike. When I sort of built this bike up, this is I think a 2015 P2. It's not the original color scheme. I got it repainted a couple of years ago. There's another video on the channel about that. But at the time, disc brake TT bikes weren't as common as they are now. I think at the moment, of all the big brands, Giant is probably the only brand still making a rim brake TT bike with the Trinity, but all the other big brands that make TT bikes have gone to disc brake. Now this bike for me was almost like a labour of love. I chose a new colour scheme, and over the years since I bought this bike, I've just chipped away at little upgrades, and so there's a lot of parts on it that I've hunted down and bought and fitted, and it's not like I can take all these parts and just put them onto a brand new disc brake bike. I just really like this bike. I'm really attached to it, and because most of the racing I do on this bike and tries, long distance tries, there's not too many corners, and normally over the course of a race there's only a tiny handful of braking areas. The brakes get used very little. So as much as it's cool to have a new bike and to upgrade and all that sort of thing, if I was to replace this bike, the only thing that would change would be the brakes. I'd still have a carbon frame, I'd still have a power meter, I'd still have a disc wheel, still have a deep front wheel, all this storage, integration, hydration, whatever. I'll probably even still have the same saddle. That's a massive expense to upgrade from this bike to a brand new TT bike, which is, you saw my last video, bikes are expensive. It's probably going to be a $10 or more $1,000 purchase just to upgrade brakes, which I barely use on a race course. I don't think it's worth it, and that's why I haven't bothered. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.